Welcome to No Clip. I'm Chad Rutherman.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today we're going to be talking about Portal. Portal was released in 2007. It was developed and published by Valve Software. I probably don't need to go too much into what Portal is. I think currently it is the most populous game on my Steam list. More people that I'm friends with on Steam own a Portal than do not own Portal. So
that's what happens when you're incredibly critically acclaimed and give your game away for free on the most popular PC platform that exists.
Yeah, it probably it along with the Orange Box sort of made the final push to make Steam a ubiquitous piece of software on most people's home computers. And Portal was it was kind of a unsung hit at the time, when it actually released, because they packaged it in the Orange Box with Half-Life 2, both of its episodes, and Team Fortress, and it was kind of it seemed like the add-on thing, but it exploded and took on a whole life of its own.
At the time, it was a tiny team experiment. I think it was 14 people total that worked on all of Portal.
I don't know the exact number, but
I listened to the developer commentary.
I did too. It was years ago.
No,
but I don't know why I'm trying to defend myself. God forbid somebody thinks I didn't watch the director commentary of Portal. But Portal is itself a first-person game. And I kind of wanted to jump into this because Portal hits so many of those notes that I really like about games, in that it's a game that is primarily about movement, where it's a game where you need to get from point A to point B, and it gives you this creative way to do it. As I mentioned before, I really like games like Mirror's Edge, which are about fluid movement through a physical space, but Portal takes that and kind of subverts your typical A to B movement by allowing you to place extra dimensional wormholes on walls and make your way from one place to another in an insanely fast time. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I love to do. So
go from point A to point B in an extremely fast time.
Basically, yes.
It's so weird because you're correct in at the moment that it came out, when it was packaged in with the Orange Box, it wasn't something that was extremely billed as the thing you go to the Orange Box for. At the time, that was Half-Life 2 episode 2?
2 was the one that just came out.
But the kind of steamroll that grew behind this game was unbelievably enormous.
Steamrolled? Go on.
Okay. Thanks. It was it grew in popularity.
Snowballed.
That's
the one.
Yeah, that's the word.
It's a good pun, though.
And not intentional.
Yeah, whatever.
Subconscious puns.
They're the best kind.
It got so popular so fast. Probably, I assume, mostly because of the acclaim and its brevity.
Right.
It's such a short game that pretty much anyone who could have access to it could get through it in a night or two. It's because it seems ubiquitous to us now, particularly when we think about how much people talked about it and how influential it was in the PC space generally.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was not at the time, and even going back, I'm surprised at how different Portal mechanics are. There have not been as many games as I would have assumed at the time, right after Portal was big, that sort of duped it and cloned its sort of unique characteristics in some way, unless I'm just forgetting about something.
I can only think of one that does anything similar, and honestly I don't even remember the name of it. It was an independent game that came out shortly after that people were talking. It was Quantum something.
Quantum something.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
I'm so far removed from all of this.
PC?
Yeah, I was so far away from the PC space in 2007. I remember the advertisements for the Orange Box and being what the fuck? What is this?
I know that...
in the commercials, wasn't Gladys's voice narrate the commercials? So didn't they promote Portal heavily through that?
I honestly did not know that there were Orange Box commercials.
Yeah,
because that's how I knew about it.
I suspect it's something that came out after the release, and they saw how successful
retroactive.
Portal was,
Yeah.
and so they went back and were like, buy the orange box, it has Portal in it.
Because I can hear like her, like Gladys's voice
Yeah.
saying the orange box.
Yeah, and before I forget this piece of information, because we just talked on the Transistor cast about like unsung video game voice actors.
Yeah.
Ellen McLean is the woman who does the voice of Gladys, as well as the Overwatch in Half-Life and the announcer in Team Fortress 2. She's like Valve's in-house like good voice actor, and she does
And operatic singer.
yeah. It does like an outstanding job, obviously, selling like the Gladys character
And singing.
and also sing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to put that in while we were talking about Gladys's voice.
Give the iconic characters their due.
I mean, if you're talking about iconic characters, that's like she's obviously the workhorse behind like the personality of this game, because as like well as they hit the visual aesthetics of the game, which we'll I'm sure talk about in due time, on the topic of voice acting, the all things considered, she's the only like real voiced character in the game. It's like your character is mute. The companion cube is an object. And then Gladys has a voice. The only other person...
And the chorus at the end.
Yeah, is Mike Patton, lead singer of Faith No More, does the voice of the of the personality chorus.
Didn't know that.
And the zombies in Left 4 Dead.
I was actually... That touches on one of the earlier points that I was hoping to make in the cast, which is I'm actually surprised, going back to the original Portal, how long it takes for GLaDOS to like acquire like the unique personality that we all sort of attribute to her.
Right.
Like the sarcasm, like the deep wit, and like the individual personhood. Because through so much of the game, I'd put it at the moment before you escape. The jokes that come off of her character are mostly just sort of your generic like machine jokes where it's like an inhuman thing that's talking to you that doesn't really understand sort of the consequences of like the human consequences of the things that it's saying. It's just like if that weird voice modulator thing that they always include in Windows was trying to communicate voices to you.
No, MS Sam, is it Sam?
I forget.
No, I think Sam sounds correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't understand people.
Yeah, and I mean that's all well and good, and like it isn't supposed to be like a criticism of any kind. It's just that now, especially since GLaDOS was in many ways sort of like the face of Portal 2 in like a lot of its marketing efforts.
Yeah.
They like redesigned her for like how she physically looked, partially to help market her better, and all the different accessories. I was surprised that it took that long for her to be like the sarcastic person that we understand.
Yeah, I think the character
They
arc...
developed the character?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The character arc, like, as it stands, and if you're drawing from, like, the implications that are brought up in Portal 2, then it is an AI that is, like, supposedly built from a human mind, so it allows... whereas if you just took Portal 1 by itself, it is, like, from, like, an artificial intelligence standpoint, kind of unusual to think that, like, an AI would learn and like react differently to things, but the way that like the character develops over the course of the first game is sort of like it is portrayed as just like the disembodied like ambient voice, like a pre-recorded track.
Yeah, it's a script.
Right.
And that's why the turn when you begin to escape is so important. It's because it's her going off script and being emotional suddenly.
Very HAL 9000 or whatever.
Yeah, and not being able to like access information about your character, because like as an interesting point of fact, the Aperture Science portal gun is now worth more than the combined wages and internal organs of subject hometown here. Like, yeah. That kind of thing. But yeah, and then once you break the program, like where it's like, okay, well here's the part where we dispose of the test subject, and then presumably repeat, like go back to the beginning, somebody else runs the trials, then at that point, and where something goes wrong, you start to realize that Gladys is, in fact, a character and not just a voice.
Yep.
And I think that's like part we're starting to get at, like why this game's so special is how it surprises you so much on the first playthrough.
Oh yeah,
it's easy to forget. Like you just brought up that Gladys isn't sarcastic the whole game. When you go back and replay it, like the game really toys with the player throughout the whole thing. It's what I think part of what makes it so memorable.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, at the beginning of the game, the part where we were talking about how it just sounds like a pre-recorded voice, a lot of people remember this game as being funny. Mm-hmm. The writing is very good, which is true. The writing is good, and they hit that, like, the humor notes really well. But when, like, I replayed it and kind of, like, focused on what was being said, especially near the end once Gladys breaks from, like, script, the game's actually, like, genuinely kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Like, you get a very, like, uneasy feeling, especially when you're going back through, like, the, like, old Aperture, like, the areas that are kind of broken down, and you're, like, walking through the walls and stuff.
It was an intentional decision from the very start. Like, the intense loneliness, it's... If you look very closely at all of the cameras and the different devices, rust spots begin to show up there. All of the observation areas that are supposed to make you feel, like watched and uncomfortable, they have both that effect, and they make you aware that no one is in the observation areas, and that you see no people anywhere ever, even though you get like hints that people used to be there. Mm-hmm. And a more subtle one that I only picked up on this time when I played through it specifically for the cast is that when you're going through the scripted sections of the game, you can, anytime the floor breaks open or things begin to reposition, if you look down and like under where they come through, it's always like horribly rusted and this bright, deep red.
Yeah. That's
just in your face immediately, and you don't need to make like the hell connotations there. The message is really clear and it's really uncomfortable.
Mm.
But yeah, you brought that up as if you didn't find it creepy or uncomfortable the first time you played it?
It's not... It wasn't the... See, the first time I played the game was so long ago that I guarantee you that I did have that, like, feeling. This is one of those games... It actually replaced this old GameCube game called Dead to Rights. But I don't really want to talk about that much. It was just, like, a standard third-person, like, action shooter game with, like, bullet time mechanics.
Okay.
But that used to be the game that I would play if I just had, like, an afternoon free. Because I'd played the game a number of times and it just becomes so, like, rote and repeatable that I would just blaze through that game in a couple of hours and feel satisfied at the end of it. And it was fun to play. And this game overtook that, where, like, especially through college, if I just had, like, some time to kill, I could just, like, boot this game and run through it. And so, like, a lot of the, like, subtlety and the messages and stuff that were left in the game fell away, and it became, like, a purely mechanical exercise. To the point where, like, I was actively attempting to, like, learn the routes and stuff to speedrun the game, and it was just, like... It's been so long since I've done that I was able to look at it from a different lens now.
The game really does want you to treat it as if it's just like a mechanical interface.
Right.
They made plenty of design decisions apparent from the very start that are supposed to make that easy for you. If not how isolated you are from other people, it's how sparse all of the environments are. And in the commentary, they actually refer to this explicitly, that the environments used to be sort of more cluttered like in the other Half-Life games, and they removed it all because they wanted you to draw attention to the puzzles, and puzzles specifically.
Right. That's actually one of the things, if you had another point, go on.
I don't remember.
Okay. And that's one of the things that I feel Portal 2 sort of fell down with, is because, like, in Portal 1, you spend almost an equal amount of time in and outside of the test chambers, where it's like, kind of like the first half of the game, or the, 18 test chambers? 19?
Something like that.
19 test chambers. And then you leave, and then... Especially on your first time through, when this is all new to you, it's sort of like an application of skills that you've learned.
Yep.
And it takes a lot longer, so even though it's not, like, spatially as large an area, it's more of a challenge actually getting through and figuring everything out. Portal 2, like, had that opportunity, given, like, that it was a sequel to this, to just go hog wild. Like you were saying with the Life is Strange episode, how you felt like the moments at the end where they're kind of like, use your time travel powers actively to try and solve things.
Mm-hmm.
This game could have been, or Portal 2 could have been all of that, but they kept returning to test chambers, and they built a whole other aperture to do more test chambers in, which just feels like not using what they set up to the greatest effect, and like capitalizing on the strengths of this game.
Portal 2 has like what I think are really bad pacing issues. Because like you get like the same tutorial for the first game at the beginning, right, and then you get more tutorials halfway through when they introduce the new mechanics.
Yeah. I feel like, especially like with how many people played Portal 1, they could have really eased up on like the tutorializing in the second one. Because it's, like I said, the first one is basically ubiquitous. Most people who play PC games have played Portal.
Mm-hmm. Random other thing, tying on to the previous discussion about like the design decisions in the environment. Are you aware of how big all of the things in the test chambers are? I assume that this was another decision that they made to try and make the game seem like elemental and like a thing that you just mechanically interface with, because they're huge, and against a background that's, it contrasts with them a lot, because most of the things you interact with are like highly squared or compared to like round shit, things like that.
Right.
But like the cubes are like the size of that sofa. They're like enormous.
It's a good visual for everyone listening.
Yeah.
He's pointing at the
Human
world's
body
tiniest sofa.
It's gotta be able to fit a human body.
You know what? It's one standard sofa unit. You know, like the average sofa.
That's a recliner, but...
Yeah,
God.
you're sitting on a sofa.
Yeah.
That's a recliner.
Oh, I forgot that momentarily.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, if you... See, that's what I was actually going to ask, is what you meant by things in the test chambers. Because the test chambers are all, like...
Empty.
Yeah, for the most part. There's just very few things to interact with, and that was a conscious design decision.
All of those things. The cubes, the little tubes the cubes drop out of,
right,
the like little robots that attack, anything other than you, anything that's actually in those very sparse environments, you because the environments are so sparse, they're like a lot of frames of references for things.
Right.
But all of those things are massive.
Yeah,
they're
test chambers are like
giant.
Many stories tall. Because of just like... Because you assume, because of the way that they laid them out, and this is also another excellent decision on their part in terms of like communicating to the player how things work. The areas that you can portal onto, for the most part, are like sectioned off in these rectangles. And the rectangles are like, roughly, if you just like circumscribed your player character with a rectangle, that is the size of it, roughly. And the portals, like, perfectly fit inside of them.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it gives you, like, a good, like, gridded spatial understanding of everything.
Yep.
And so in order to make the chambers able to, especially with the more kinetic ones where you have to, like, jump off of a tall thing and fall and then shoot out another way, they have to make the test chambers hugely massive just to be able to go from one area to the other without feeling cramped or like that it's too precise.
I mean, there are times when the test chambers do, and I assume intentionally, try and make themselves feel cramped, even though all the stuff in there is so large. Probably to try and feed into that like paranoia that the whole game's trying to build at you until the moment that it turns and makes it explicit that the thing is out here to kill you.
Yeah, Test Chamber 19 I think is a good example of that, where like the puzzle where you have to get around the closed door on the Aperture Science unstationary scaffold. In order to get to that, like, you're in this, like, one-by-one area that's just traveling toward a wall. So.
And they've got... Another thing that they referenced in the commentary is how much that they had to keep falling back on using, like, time limitations repeatedly in the game as a way to make you, in the environment of a puzzle, still feel like you're starting to, like, panic or, you know, be stressed, essentially, and not just have to lazily sit around and solve the puzzle whenever you want it.
Right.
What? I don't really remember there being very many timed puzzles.
Anytime you're on a moving object, counts as a timed puzzle.
I was thinking specifically there are a number of buttons and stuff. Like, you have unlimited time to solve it, but, like, a lot of the things where you have to, like, get something, like, beyond a door requires you to, like, hit a button on a pedestal that starts, like, a clicking timer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's sounding more familiar now.
Yeah, they aren't all, like, explicitly on screen like they did at the end of, like, the GLaDOS fight.
Yeah.
Quotation marks.
Which is still, like, is just on, like, a screen that's up there. Like, you have to check if you want to see how much time you have left.
Yep.
It's not, like, some, like, obtuse UI countdown in the bottom left corner.
Way too classy for that.
Yeah.
At all times.
Well, Portal just oozes class. Like, that is, like, the whole thing.
It's so smooth. Everything it does is
like,
smooth.
pure white, like, very...
sterile.
Yeah.
Alright, I guess I didn't want to lead with this, but upon, like, doing preparation for the cast here, I think this might be a perfect game.
Perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this as well. It's a game that, like, is not among my favorite games, and I try and, like, justify that, or I tried to justify that this morning and last night, and it's difficult to do. Because, like, I compare it to other things on the list, it's like, do I really think that, like, Hotline Miami is a better game than Portal? And the answer to that is no, but I don't want to say that I like Portal more than it.
Well, there's more that when you're trying to, like, rank the things that you enjoy, when you make these kind of lists, at least when I do, I'm not trying to figure out what is, like, the best at capturing its own theme with the thing that it's trying to do in isolation. That's relevant. But what's also relevant is just, like, my subjective tastes for the thing.
Right.
And I enjoy Portal, but I enjoy, like, other themes and tones more. So you can still be consistent in thinking that Portal perfectly executes on what it's trying to do, but not have it be, like, the greatest game for you.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing that I kept coming back to, and is that I 100% agree that I think Portal may be, like, basically flawless.
Yeah, because it's the game, everything about it feels, like, effortless.
Right.
Yep.
Like, the mechanic completely fits the genre, the setting completely fits the mechanic.
Yeah.
Like, everything fits together so well. It just...
The narrative
in a way that, like, just feels, like, so simple. You're like, how did no one think of this before?
Yeah. That's, I was thinking about it, and the only thing that I kept coming back to was the only part of this game that I don't like is the jump where you have to jump onto the catwalk from the other side of that lake. I feel like it is sloppy. But other than that one jump,
Not perfect.
maybe even, like, less than 2 seconds of total gameplay, if you execute it properly, is the only time during this game that I'm not satisfied playing.
What I think pushes it over the edge for me is its length.
Mm.
Yep.
Like, I think the fact that this is a shorter, air quotes,
Yeah.
game is a huge benefit. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. And I feel like I enjoy Portal 1, like, significantly more than Portal 2, and I think it's because Portal 2 feels drawn out.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the first games, at least that I remember, that was actually praised for being short. It helped move that sort of bias in game culture back a few steps, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, because it works really well as an experience, and I'm the biggest experience-based gamer here.
Right?
I think that's fair to say. And I would recommend, if you have an afternoon or a night or whatever, to play this in one sitting. Because it just, the length of the story and it's all so satisfying to play in one chunk.
Yeah. And it has, like, it has, like, a very explicit narrative that it wants to, like, move through. And so, like, if the game was, like, if some guy was, like, it's good, if it could be, like, 4 times as long, though, that would be, like, optimal. Then, like, if they would have, there's no padding in this game. Like, a lot of people are sort of under the impression, clearly not me, based on the way that this podcast has played out, that when you edit something, the more you take out, the better your final product is.
It's not always true.
It's not always true. But, like, we're assuming that you're not unreasonably just cutting things.
Right.
And I feel like Portal's the game that's, like, been pared down to like exactly how much needs to be there.
There's a lot of fat removed from Portal, I bet.
Yeah.
A lot of the other probably narrative stuff. They probably had to really rein themselves in a couple of times to keep the like Half-Life Black Mesa jokes at to more of a minimum.
Do you think that they had to cut a lot of stuff, or do you think they specifically like set out to design a game that was kind of minimalistic in its storytelling?
Well, we know that they didn't start minimalistic because, like I said, the environments used to be cluttered.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they did cut a lot of stuff, and I mean, I agree that a lot of the Black Mesa stuff probably got kind of, well, most likely it got moved to Portal 2, where they talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But in Portal 1, like, that's basically limited to a one-off joke in the end credits song, and also
A PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Hidden.
There are a few other, like, environmental things, like clipboards and stuff, that have mention of it. But yeah, there's a PowerPoint slide that says dollars and cents competing with Black Mesa that's projected onto a wall. But for the most part, it's pretty well hidden. It's not until the end of the game that you really would even know that it takes place in the same universe.
One little narrative touch that I liked a whole lot, and it definitely speaks to the kind of minimalism that we're talking here, is that once you get into the GLaDOS room, and I only noticed it this time, is there's just like the rest of the lead up to the GLaDOS fight, is there are these desks positioned all over the place, and there's a desk to the left after you enter that has like a very bright red phone on it, with like a line coming down with the cord very distinctively cut, and I think that red phone tells like a pretty specific story that, in the context of like where it is, like in the room that GLaDOS is at, that I like a whole lot.
Yeah,
not even a little bit.
That was
in
in the developer commentary.
Yep,
is like there was the jobs of the people in the room to like use the red phone if the AI started to become sentient and the cord is cut.
I never saw that actually. Also, because it is 2016, as you were describing that, I was imagining like a red cell phone, and I was like, "Why did you die?" Like, in my head, that's all.
No, we cannot really very much longer. You've got to accept this.
Okay, fine. like red phone, like that's
like
a
the
classic,
bat phone,
yeah,
like
like everyone. I'm going to say 15 years younger than us would
I'm
think
talking,
you are unreasonable.
I think
for
specifically
your
in Chad. Is what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. No, I'm embarrassed.
If someone who was 15 said that, I would cut them.
So
more slack.
you're suggesting that when we're like 80, we're going to have to maintain our bias and picture phones as we did when we were 10?
I'm just saying, like, we grew up like half of our lives right now with corded phones.
That sounds about right. Well, whatever. I know, but I was going to ask you...
Yeah?
Because I know when you first played this game. Before last night, had you played the game since they littered the whole thing with radios?
Oh, yes, and I hate it to death.
Yeah, it's the worst.
God. Why can't you turn it off?
Yeah, like, I get why it was put in there as part of the ARG, but that should have just been a month
Give
long
me a
thing.
refresher.
Okay.
I remember the radios, I don't remember what they did.
Yeah, the radios play that, like...
It's like a Mamba version
of Still Alive. And there's one, like, in the opening chamber...
You put in the toilet?
Every time. Well, actually, the radio doesn't fit in the toilet, so I put the coffee mug in the toilet.
Exactly.
Then the clipboard in the toilet.
That's what you do.
And then you sit the radio on top of it.
Complete master here.
And then you jump on top of the sleeping chamber and jump up and down until the time runs out. That's how you correctly play Portal. But they put those radios in every... I don't know if it's every... I think it's in every test chamber. And then they also put in, like a secret area into each test chamber. Not like an actual area, like a invisible square in each test chamber. And if you grab the radio and take it to that area, then it starts to play static at like a particular frequency. And then if you record that static...
Oh, I remember this.
And then you put it through like a Spectromoonalysis 2000
machine.
Yeah. Spectromoonalysis machine.
2000.
It turned...
XT.
it was part of this ARG to like get Portal 2 released earlier. That started like a month before the game came out. And additionally, you have never seen the original ending of Portal.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't either, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well. You actually have, because in the original ending of Portal, you everything explodes, and then you come to on the pavement on the side, and then the screen goes to black and the credits roll. But in the version that you guys
get,
played,
whacked on the head.
well, you get dragged away by the robot that says, "Thank you for assuming the party
submission
position,
whatever."
Yeah, which was added in to explain why you were back in Aperture at the beginning of Portal 2. So,
I kind of wish it would have been a different character.
Yeah, instead of
Portal
Shell.
2, yeah.
If they...
It feels really unsatisfying to have her escape and then just get drugged back in.
That's, and this is pure speculation, and I don't think that I need to preface this with that.
Yeah.
But I believe that if they were planning on releasing a Half-Life episode or Half-Life 3 soon after Portal came out, then they would have had Shell most likely escape and become part of that storyline.
Yeah.
But because Portal 2 was the next canonical Valve-verse thing that came out, they probably didn't want to make a new character and set them up.
And isn't Portal 2 supposed to be thousands of years?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 2 and 10,000 years.
Something really stupid.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure there's even ambiguity as to ambiguity. I said that. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Gotcha.
As to where in the timeline Half-Life 2 takes place in relation to Half-Life 1. So,
how does Portal 2 end? I can't remember. I know that you almost go to the moon.
They're saying...
Yeah, you blow shit up into space,
right?
And then you take an elevator out of Aperture.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't remember.
And then the turrets sing to you.
So you actually
The turrets
escape.
are also another voiced character in the Portal series.
So you actually escape?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember.
But as we said before, they could just retcon, and with an ARG edition, they could just create a new ending anyway if they wanted to.
Yeah. As proven with Portal 1's ARG, yeah.
Well, we maybe are still trying to find anything minuscule and picky as we can to criticize with this. Why do people, is it a stylistic choice that all of Valve's games never, change or update their, opening menus from Windows 98? Because I think it's weird. I don't understand it.
I think it's just, it's a Source Engine thing. Because I think it's just, their default way of working through that. But also, I feel while it really does not fit the aesthetic of Portal,
right?
I think that it nails the aesthetic of Half-Life. When you're playing Half-Life and you hit escape and the game just hard cuts to a still image that's slightly transparent under just hard white text. That to me sounds like Half-Life. Aperture Science, maybe not so much, but I think it's just kind of a thing. They updated the TF2 menu.
I would not know.
Yeah, they've updated it hundreds of times. Now it's unusable and terrible.
Oh.
Because you can't access the server browser easily.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into that, but I agree it's
know
weird.
nothing about Half-Life.
Right.
Because I'm a bad person.
Yeah, it's true.
Is there any kind of meaningful connection between the two games as of, right now?
There's a ship.
Yeah, the Borealis is in Portal 2. There are connections, but none of them would mean anything to you having not played Half-Life. The Aperture Science is supposed to be a competitor to Black Mesa.
I know
that just failed in every way.
It's continuity porn, pretty much.
Yeah,
everything that's porn. There is just...
I'm kind of a fan of continuity porn, though.
Yeah.
I jerk off to that.
Play Half-Life, specifically Half-Life 1, and then...
But do you think I would like it, though?
You're not a shooter fan.
I'm
it's
not even a little
one
bit.
of the best shooters ever made.
You could use the gravity gun as much as you
That's
can.
in Half-Life 2.
Oh.
So you wouldn't get almost any continuity porn out of that. But in Half-Life 1, there are a number of connections that Portal likes to draw. But, yeah. It's really good. Super good game.
Did I ever... Oh, yeah, I did. We had the menu conversation. I just forgot whether we went on another crazy tangent or I actually...
Oh, no, you did complete menu conversation about it being...
Good.
Not good, specifically.
Go good that I completed.
Oh, right, yeah.
We know.
Okay.
Should we talk about the Rat Man?
The rat... Well, that... I guess, like, we could seg out of... We segged out of the previous conversation that we should have segged into this one with. Because, yeah, the Rat Man would be your character that is the reason... Let me try all of those words. For the second time.
Remix.
The Rat Man is the reason that they put in all of those radios and things, because they're supposed to be messages from him. But yeah, he was supposedly like someone who worked at Aperture, and then when he was insane, and like he did like...
Or was he?
But that's all of those facts are just more continuity porn based on things they released afterwards.
Yeah,
the
like
context
there's
of
a
the
comic
game,
book that explains it. Yeah.
I don't even know if within Portal itself they actually use the phrase Rat Man or not.
I think
if
it's
they do
on
or
all
not.
the walls, isn't it? Like in
I think he
invisible
talks
secret
about... I think
areas.
like the writing on the walls refers to rats, and the fans gave
that's
him
why
the
they
name
call
Rat
it.
Man,
Mm-hmm.
and then Valve canonized it with the comic book.
But all he is in the context of Portal 1
41.
in the context of Portal 1 is another guy. He's just a dude like you, the closest thing that you have to human contact, and he, because he's the only other person in the situation, is supposed to be, in some way, also a signal for how you should be treating this circumstance.
Right.
And his treatment of the circumstance is crazy panic.
Yeah. But, like, we should bring up to anybody who doesn't know is that it's all, like, secret. It's all hidden areas.
no.
There's one part
all
that
of
is
it.
extremely explicit, and there's also a mechanical reason that he exists.
Yeah.
So-
Because, like, I don't remember coming across anything about him when I played it.
That's,
In the live fire range training course with the turrets,
Yeah.
there's the place that has two cubes that are like jamming open one of the walls,
Mm-hmm.
and if you move those cubes and go behind it, which you're like incentivized to do because the turrets are behind glass, and like the solution to the puzzle is to portal above them, then on the wall, grab the cube and drop it on them.
Right.
Then you can go back there, and that's the like I believe first canonical rat den in big quotes. And so I feel like that is difficult to miss.
Yep.
And
also, all the notes during the final escape sequence,
Yeah.
those are all him doing his classic blood writing to try
Right.
and give you hints and help you through the circumstance.
and that's
for some reason
the
mysterious.
mechanical reason for his existence that I mentioned before.
Ah, okay.
Is that he's like
I guess
the
I just
reason
don't
there are hint
remember.
arrows.
Yep. Yeah.
Like Mario does not need a reason why there's an arrow signpost in the
Right,
ground. at the
but
beginning of the
Portal
level.
kind of needs an explanation.
Right, otherwise you're just kind of
That-
like grasping in the dark.
I really like the, like, implied, or at least is what I get from it, like, that he's like kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Shutter Island. But in Aperture, like, he's like crazy, and he doesn't know if he's crazy or if it's
The situation is actually insane.
everything's against him or not.
Right. Yeah, I think the narrative in the game is definitely set up to give you some sympathy for the character. It's just like, this is clearly all fucked.
Right.
And to suggest that you're in his position. Not even talking about all the other creepy elements we discussed before. I think if you're like a really attentive person, you can get a lot about how you should be feeling in the situation that you're in from the moment you start the game. Because after the first portal opens up that allows you to like leave your little hibernation chamber or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
the camera is very deliberately set up such that the other portal that appears lets you see yourself, like face and head to toe.
Mm.
And the things that you would notice first off is
You're malnourished.
yeah, there are weird mechanical things stuck to your legs. B, you're in like an orange generic jumpsuit that's kind of like ratty. C, your face looks sad, like you actually have like an unhappy expression. And D, your hair is like pulled back in like a very generic, non-expressive, sort of utilitarian
Ponytail?
yeah, and it's really frizzy and all over the place and crazy. You look like a prison inmate, which is exactly how the story sets you up to be over time. But you can get that, and very strong hints at that, from literally the first room, because all of the things you referenced before is also there. All of those hints that allow you to see yourself is there. The red lighting, the rust on the cameras, the fact that the cameras follow you, the observation posts with no people in them, it's all in the very first room of the game.
Aren't they just boots that you're wearing and not mechanical things?
No, it's you were barefoot
Yep.
in the game.
Ah.
So
There are
you
crazy
actually have
things attached.
Yeah, these big like metal like and wires like happily oblivious to like the negative connotation of what's going on.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, what do you want me to do now? Jump over there? Cool. And like just going about like no negative thoughts whatsoever. That'd be an interesting way to experience this game.
Yeah. During this cave sequence, you're like, what's going on? Where did the game go?
Wouldn't it be a lot cheaper to just make boots instead of surgically
really hung up on
implant?
this.
Well, I don't know if they're surgically implanted. I'm just saying they're attached in a way that does not look comfortable.
Gotcha.
Right.
And smelling.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah, that's just, and I guess they wanted you to notice that immediately. This, I believe, is also from the developer's commentary.
Yeah.
Which this podcast may as well just be called "We Narrate the Developer's Commentary to You." It is like just so that the player never questions why you can fall like 18 stories and be fine. The thing that I want to know is how, if you go in a portal and then go out another portal that is sideways, you like go whoop and then right yourself in 0 feet.
Oh, yeah.
That's weird. But,
gravity.
Yeah, I guess.
Whatever.
I think on that note, though, we should take a break and then come back. And record more podcasts after that.
Do you like podcasting?
Oh, yeah. I like podcasts.
Podcast.
As part of a required test protocol, we will stop enhancing the truth in 3, 2.
Yeah. I think that part of the reason that Portal became so iconic, like long-term, is its use of logos in the game itself. Not even necessarily like in like the marketing or the advertising or anything, even though it's also important, because like a lot of the... I know the commercials for Portal 2 were very iconic in the way they used it, but they had that same structure in Portal 1's commercials too, assuming it even had them. Yeah. You are sort of like subtly placed around logos in positions that like draw your attention and have you see them a lot in this game. It's always as the interlude in between all of your missions when you're supposed to be paying attention to the puzzles. You always open with a giant screen that displays logos, and your environment is so sparse that it always draws attention to the things that are in front of you. Simplistic as they are, they still stand out really strongly from the background. So you'll always immediately see these like tiny little things that represent this guy and a cake and acid and all these like sort of like cute don't damage yourself in the workplace ways. Every time you reach the end of a level, when you're in the elevator, you turn around and the first thing you see is Aperture Science on like a neon blue sign like right above your head on the elevator, and you're staring directly at it when the game loads its new level and you get off the elevator. Considering all the main levels before the second half twist, 19 times you have to go through just looking at these individual logos for the game over and over again.
18 times the cake square is grayed out. Yeah. The 19th one it is there. That always amused me.
What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, the consistent like branding in the world is pretty effective. It makes you feel more like you're a lab rat.
Yeah, it gives you that like. I find it difficult to draw like a real world comparison, specifically because it's in the real world designed to be something that's so subtle that it just becomes like part of your everyday life. Like you see somebody walking around with a can of Coke, like you recognize that logo immediately upon seeing it because it's just been so like drilled into your head, and like this whole game drills its own iconography into your head just through each.
It makes the world
chamber.
feel more real for sure.
Yeah,
and
it also gives Aperture Science like that sort of gross corporate feel.
Yeah, it makes it feel like a real kind of company.
Yeah, that is like.
You mean like a horrible thing that imprisons you?
Yeah,
and tortures
I mean,
you?
it seems like the actual like they advertise like a real company would.
Yeah. Well, because it's the kind of thing where it's like they're fighting an uphill battle from the beginning because you start the game as like you know going in that you're playing a video game, and it's like they give you these like effectively a big fucking toy to shoot extra dimensional portals all over the walls, but then like the game still has to ground you in its setting, and it does that by these like by subtly sort of like bringing you down to the point where you are not all powerful in this
Not even a
situation.
little bit.
Far from
Yeah.
it.
You are actively being tested, and like things are actually trying to murder you, and you have no means of defense.
Not just really being tested on. I think that's a
Right.
really important distinction.
And one thing that like drives that home is those screens at the beginning of every chamber with like the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like an instruction booklet, like an IKEA booklet. Everything's like silhouetted, like go here, do this with this.
Yeah.
This is
It
going
would
to be a
be-
weird callback, but it always made me think of in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, the Rick Moranis, the future is now, and he does like the little pose. Yeah.
I also completely agree.
Yeah.
I often think of, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids series when trying to make comparisons about the things that I love.
I can't tell if you're being facetious because I actually do that all the time.
Damn it.
Really? It's a weird, I don't know. I grew up with that movie. I'm sorry.
How many times have you seen the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
0. You know how many times I've seen Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves?
I've seen that one way more.
Yeah,
so
like probably close to 50 times.
I haven't seen it that much.
I watched it
Actually,
all.
I had never seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids until like a couple years ago.
We're poisoning our youth with these evil 90s movies.
Evil?
It's a good ass movie.
I don't know about good ass.
No clip homework. Watch that movie. We're not going to talk about it.
We found something to disagree on.
Finally!
Yeah.
Portal does not make JJ think about a Rick Moranis movie from 97. Unbelievable. JJ, 0 out of 10, worst person.
So sorry. I got a lot of Rick
Moranis.
Moranis.
He's in Ghostbusters.
Oh.
And Spaceballs.
And Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
I'm seeing the connection now.
yeah.
All
Little
right.
Shop of Horrors.
Other things.
What was that video game that we were...
Portal.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah. One of the things that they talk about in the developer's commentary, and therefore also on our podcast.
Just let it happen.
This is what happens
Just
when
spit
you.
it out.
This is what happens when you watch commentary.
A lot is they talk about, and this is honestly the part about this that actually stuck with me because it's been like 5 years since I've like gone through this.
Okay.
Is how much they discuss like the play testing and how the game could have been very different than what it turned out to be because they wanted to, without being really explicit about it, drive the player to do the right thing when they went through the playtesting, people would get locked in like certain areas, not knowing how to figure stuff out.
Or
and so
they bypass things.
right.
Yeah.
So they would design like the geography of the level to like sort of draw attention to things that you need to do. And Andy had an anecdote about something that did not quite work out for him.
Right. So I was, once again, like all three of us did, watch the developer commentary. Apparently we shouldn't have done that. But one thing that they brought up is that playtesters would assume they could only exit through orange portals. And that's something that I also totally assumed. And then by the time they introduce a puzzle that makes you enter through an orange portal, like it had already been so cemented in my mind, like blue in, orange out, that I realized that I could do it the other way. But even after that puzzle, I pretty much always shoot a blue portal to enter and an orange one to leave.
Right. Is the is the puzzle that they designed the one where the portal gun is on the rotating platform?
No, it's...
I have to say I don't remember.
I think it's at the... I forget if... It's after you get half of it. Because that's how they can force you to do it. Is
Right.
they need control over one of the portals. The
Well,
orange
you
portal
get
is
the one-
stationary, but you can put the blue at either half of it. So you have to put the blue
It's the
at
one where
one
the
end to walk
portal's on
out the
a-
orange, and then put it across the gap. So you have to walk in the orange to get across the gap.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Which is so smart, by the way.
Right.
I think that deserves being called out, that constantly in this game, they kept making decisions, as you do when you make a good video game, that's supposed to lead people, the player, into making the whatever decision that they're trying to get you to make without feeling like you're being tunneled or
Right.
forced into things.
See, this is not a new thing. I don't think that we can necessarily point to Portal and say that this is the pinnacle of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping this ends up being an elite seg, by the way.
Loading seg.
But Valve has pretty much always been really good at this sort of thing, especially if you look back. If you look to Half-Life, but much more specifically with Half-Life 2, which came out 3 years before Portal did, so they'd have time to kind of refine that and make a more clear decision on how they were going to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those things that gets it makes you sort of wonder about the state of the industry, where it's you want to say that Valve made such good games because they were so good at that kind of player to game interaction, creating that, that they just did really well. But in reality, it was kind of their distribution platform is what took off, and they'll probably just never make a game ever again, which is kind of a tragedy. But
it's they trailblazed for 5 seconds and then became set in their ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and they're still innovating on the Steam platform, but just not at the level that they were pushing forward games when they were developing them. Team Fortress 2 basically invented the free to play, the proper free to play model, and Left 4 Dead 2 as a platform for that game.
Man, I totally forgot about Left 4
Well,
Dead.
yeah. Left 4 Dead was a great game. Left 4 Dead 2 also a great game, but also they brought the first game's assets into the second game so that you can just use Left 4 Dead 2 for all future content. And that was a more or less brand new idea. And then Half-Life rocketed forward the idea of what a corridor first-person shooter could be.
Yep.
And then Half-Life 2 narratively expanded on the genre. But Portal, as we were just talking about, became the... I don't want to steal your thunder here. What was the term that you used?
You can. You're allowed. But it's sort of the ambassador of video games. Tons and tons of people try and get people into video games now with Portal.
Yeah.
And I think... Wait, was this on the recording where we said that it's the perfect game, or was that off the recording?
No, that's
That
on
was,
recording.
yeah, I brought it up.
Okay.
I said I didn't want to lead with that, but I brought it up.
That was right.
Yeah.
It was...
Later.
Yeah. Portal is so brief and so tight in its aesthetic, and so, as far as this podcast can tell, perfect.
Except for that jump to the catwalk.
Sorry.
99.9.
9% perfect.
That it has just become... It has taken on this role in culture as the thing you try and use to get people into video games, because it seems to be good at all the things video games can uniquely bring to the table. And it's a combination between narrative and actual mechanics, the way that it can smoothly lead you into certain behavioral habits without making it explicit or calling it out like so many games lazily do. It's just so good at all of that. I was going to say it earlier, but forgot, because we started talking about broader Valve stuff. This might be a chicken and the egg scenario. I don't know which one led to the existence of the other, but I think part of the reason that Valve has forced themselves to be so good about these kind of teaching mechanisms, where they just have good game design, where they force the player to smoothly learn all of their lessons, is that they refuse to clutter their UI with things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could never picture a Valve game
With
that
a
would...
HUD.
well, like with a full HUD or with like press X to Z.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
all of those like huge pop-ups that are so common in so many other contextual things. Anything like a QTE in the conventional sense,
Right. Does not exist.
Yeah.
In a Valve game.
yeah, they're very hard on keeping their like aesthetic clean.
Yeah.
I kind of
Left 4 Dead is probably the only example of one that like does force that on you, but that's because there's so many contextual choices within the game.
That's the kind of thing that like these days is like so praised that I can't believe that it hasn't like become a thing yet.
Like the standard.
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
or like people make such a huge deal when a game like doesn't have a HUD or like button prompts.
I remember the first game that I can recall that was like completely HUD-less. Because like even if you look at a game like Half-Life 2, it has like a health meter and
Right.
like a shields meter. Was the Peter Jackson's King Kong game,
Not
and I remember
Icono.
it being like massively praised for how like gorgeous and like visually pleasing the game looked, largely because it didn't have a UI.
Yeah.
And I did play that game actually. It wasn't terrible.
A lot of people did. Like it was. It takes always
I
takes me
didn't
back
even
to
know
my.
that existed.
Oh
Dude.
yeah.
Anytime anyone mentions the King Kong game, I go straight back to my childhood and watching like the X-Play reviews, like right after the
Oh,
launch of the
wow.
360.
I-
That's like I
I-
paid attention
I
to it.
forget-
It was like a launch 360 game.
Yeah.
I say I forgot how old that movie was or how new it was. I have like no
Which
concept
is-
of when that came out.
We lack a concept
Actually,
of time
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I just watched it for the first time like a couple months ago. And
Oh, yeah?
I had never seen it.
Oh, well.
I'd
Oh.
seen the original, but not the
remake.
one,
Yeah.
All right, smooth seg. How did you feel about King Kong the movie?
That's okay.
Yeah, that's basically how I felt. It was a little long.
And that concludes the no-clip King Kong review, contained secretly within our Portal episode.
What were we even talking about?
Oh, the clean aesthetic and lack
yeah.
of UI in
Yeah.
Valve games.
Because like what I was gonna bring up was like with Team Ico, everyone always like praises their games for lacking those elements.
Honestly, I think it's just really hard. Because there are plenty of other, even like AAA games that have tried it. Didn't Dead Space try it? That was like a major thing.
Yeah, Dead Space has made the worst decision ever and made it so that everything came up as like an impossible to view, like hologram. So when you go into a menu, your guy would like hold up his hand and like a hologram of the menu would come. It's still a menu.
Yeah.
It's still there. They just made it more hard to
They
see.
like contextualized it within the world.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
But it's not even. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
But I mean, in the
menu-
world, Isaac is not fucking walking around the spaceship going like, I better turn on my V-Sync because I'm getting some like vertical chopping.
I thought, isn't in Dead Space the menu pop up, but you don't go out of third person? Isn't the menu like still just
Yeah,
kind of
it's
there?
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't like zoom in
Yeah.
on it. Like it's not like the watch in GoldenEye.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure because I think like they've tried that. It's just there's so much complexity often demanded in like the modern AAA release. Everyone doesn't have a mechanic set as simple as Portal's
Well, yeah.
mechanic set.
That's probably like the underlying reason is they designed the game not to have one, whereas like most companies would like start with the mechanics and then be like, oh, should we like not have a HUD?
Yeah.
And then start ripping stuff out.
Yeah.
That's how we ended up with regenerating health, which is a topic for probably not you guys. But like a lot of shooter fans are split on whether regenerating health or like a static health bar is a
That
good
seems
thing.
like the kind of thing that should be judged on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah. But it's become like a theme, I guess.
We
But,
can get into it someday when we talk about a regenerating health game.
right.
But
Like
it-
Portal.
Portal. God.
It has regenerating health.
It's not that relevant to the game. Portal doesn't have a regenerating health system. They have a you did a wrong thing, here's red system.
Right. But I mean, if you get red, too red, you die.
Then you get the use.
You get if you get red,
red,
too
too
red,
red.
then you all red, and then you have to reload.
You don't have to reload, it just loads for you. You just click and it does that.
Well, I mean that's a reload. Anyway, yeah, no, this game does not have a HUD, and that is a good thing.
It has. I think it's important that even with mechanics as simple as portals, they compromised slightly. You have the reticule portal thing,
Yeah.
and you have the little O's that show the last portal that you sent out.
Which is genius, and it like is an absolute necessity when playing through this game for the first time, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree.
Yep. And the reticule, I think, is totally fine because you kind of need it.
Yeah,
Right.
it also contextualizes where you can or cannot place the actual portals.
And whenever you have to do like the gravity like launching stuff, it would be impossible to place portals where you needed them. Without,
good lord.
Without
Well, they do have portal funneling, which is like a thing that you can toggle in the menu. But like
funneling?
Yeah, if you're falling
Yeah.
toward a portal, you will like make minor corrections in the air automatically so that you fall into the portal and not like land slightly off and have to try again.
Oh my! How advanced are those corrections? How far away do they start?
I don't know offhand.
Why
like
would
a
he know that?
number of meters away. But it is
the thing that we can disagree
once you
on.
know about it, it is noticeable.
I think I might have seen it in the menu and just like brushed it off or something. I didn't care, like because I also went through the settings like you always do when you start a PC game.
Right.
But I always would try and launch the orange portal when I'm falling to like meet my position, and I'd always miss. I'm so bad at that. And I didn't blame it on the game. I blamed it on me just being awful because I've seen every other person on Earth do it correctly.
I've played it without funneling, and I find that the easiest way to do it, and what has turned into just my standard way of doing it, is if I'm doing a puzzle where I have to land in a portal, I always just shoot at the last second, like right before I hit.
I do that as well.
That's what I try and do, and I think I chicken in the game of chicken.
Oh.
Too early.
I think that's like one of the absolute easiest way to do it. Like that works every time for me.
Yeah. I think for the number of times I've played through this game, it just rarely happens. The most recent time I played it, I managed to get through the like tall platform up down thing in one shot.
Oh, wow.
I've never done I don't think I've ever done that before. And I was like, thank you, punnel fortling. Portal funneling. You made all this possible.
Yeah. Also, thinking back to that, is the first time I played this, I played it with a controller.
Don't play this game with a controller.
Never, ever played this game with a controller.
That was my fault, too. I was like, here, play Portal. Here's a controller. I was like setting him up for failure.
I could not do that part with the controller to save my life.
Oh, no.
Dude, for Xbox 360 Orange Box people.
I played it on the 360 and didn't have like much trouble. I think they may have fudged the controls a little bit.
Shooters, yeah,
to make it a little bit easier. Because point and click is just like
right. I played through Portal 2 with mouse and keyboard, and it was way easier.
Yeah.
Like the boss battle at the end was really hard with the controller as well.
Mm-hmm. I think I've been doing that boss battle because we always talk about the boss battle in every game that we talk about.
Well, you said that you did it different than the way I did it when I played.
I think after having seen other people do it, I think I just do that boss battle wrong.
Can you do?
Well, I mean, you can't do it wrong.
Oh,
You can still beat it.
But how do you set up your portals when you're shooting rockets at Gladys?
I shoot a portal like at a wall directly across from where the rocket guy is, stand in front of the portal, and then put the other one in a position I think might hit GLaDOS with the line, but I'm often wrong about that, and you have to adjust it over and over again.
See, I think my method is better, which is putting the portal on the floor. They put a light there so you can't do this, but I just do it anyway, and then like every rocket always hits. I've never had an issue.
If they put a light there so you can't do it, how do you do it?
I just kind of like shoot portals indefinitely until one sort of clips into the light, which is why I think I'm doing it not the intended way.
So you're a dirty game cheater who cheats at
Yeah,
the
you
games.
just put it on the wall.
Yeah, that was my initial idea, was to put it under GLaDOS, and I've done it in every run I've ever done of the game. I don't know why. It's weird. Write us at noclippodcast.com if you also cheat the GLaDOS fight miserably.
Not even the GLaDOS fight, just if you cheat.
If you cheat
stories
in any game
of your moral depravity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also snagged the not on a platform personality core on the first try. I was feeling hot last night.
You've beaten the game like how many times though?
Probably 20, 30.
Yeah, that's not very impressive, Chad.
I guess not.
If you had trouble with it, that would be more surprising.
So yeah, But on the subject of Portal being sort of like an ambassador for video games,
I'd say
Yes.
definitely for computer games.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, specifically for PC, because like I don't know many people who
Because
have been like,
I think
here, let me put in the orange box and you can play Portal with 360 controller. People will be
Right.
like, I don't play games with these paddles.
Portal's definitely the game that brought me to PC gaming.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what brought me to PC gaming. I should check that. I assume you can check that.
Is it Guild Wars?
You can look,
Oh, it's Guild Wars.
Yeah.
You're right.
you can check to see what like your earliest purchase on Steam is.
That's what I was thinking.
The first game that I ever bought with the explicit intention of playing like heavily on the PC is definitely Counter-Strike Source. At the high school LAN parties.
See, I don't
Drinking
know.
Mountain Dew, eating Fritos.
I don't know
Fritos.
if it's just because I was always a console gamer growing up, but like I really have a hard time getting into PC gaming.
Yeah. My thing is that, especially
Even though it
now-
seems like it might objectively be better, like I just can't. Like I always like find myself like way more like, oh yeah, I'll put on the PS4 and I'll play a game.
Right.
And like I'm on my computer, I'm like, oh yeah, I have Steam.
My,
I guess I could play something.
the last like 5 years, I've just been, and this is in no small part Valve's thing, have just been like bombarded with conveniences that makes playing on PC more and more appealing as time goes on.
What convenience?
Where it's like, now I can plug my laptop into my TV with an HDMI cable, then boot Steam Big Picture Mode, which has like a huge, like, console-esque operating system.
like a huge picture.
Like a big picture, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Put it
then...
into a mode that displays a picture.
And now I have the Steam controller, which allows you to, like, operate the mouse on your computer when you're not in big picture mode, and it has a single button press that launches it. And now it's just like, I have no excuse not to just play everything on PC. Except now my PC can't run every game.
Yeah, that's it. People talk about this all the time in the context of like, oh, we're getting closer to the point where like having a gaming computer is just way, way, way better all the time and everything than it is anything else. People always ignore convenience in that discussion. And granted, like, modern gaming consoles have gotten less sort of like easy in UI than they used to be. Like the PS2 era, I think was the last time it was like truly just like plug, just throw it in and play, and there's no worries ever, and it'll take 8 seconds.
Right.
The last 2 generations have introduced more sort of intermittent bullshit into that structure, but you never have to worry about, like, breaking your video game if you have it on a console. You never have to worry about installs, you never have to worry about knowing if you can run it. And even
That's
though
always
there's
nice.
so many things like in the PC space to try and like mitigate those problems, even people who are super savvy with the stuff have it all the time. I like on my last computer like permanently broke my copy of Dark Souls trying to like put the DS fix mod in and never could fix it, and I spent a ton of time trying to learn how to do these things.
How hilariously ironic.
You know, yes. You don't have to adjust resolution on anything to like match different monitors.
Yeah.
The things are easy to move. It's still more convenient, and I think you're being unfair if you suggest that consoles aren't more convenient still.
You put words in my mouth.
I'm not in your mouth. I'm just looking at you because I hate you, and I like
Oh,
looking
that's
at people
true.
when I feel hatred in my heart.
That makes sense. I mean, I would probably argue that, like, PC gaming is... And of all the fucking times to get into a discussion about console versus PC gaming, this actually seems moderately appropriate,
Yeah.
considering they released that Portal released simultaneously on both. But it depends a lot on your control input preference.
Oh no, okay. I understand where you're going with this. I need to
I
clarify.
meant for this
I
game.
wasn't pointing out all of those things as like a descriptor of why consoles are like still better. I was just trying to shoot down the fact that PCs were objectively better in all arenas.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting to the point where that could very well be the case.
Soon.
Yeah, because, like, console exclusivity is basic... Well, and Nintendo are basically the two reasons to own a video game console is if there's a game that you want to play that's only on an Xbox or PlayStation, and let's be honest, you should just always own Nintendo consoles because they make really good games.
Wow, we're really subtle about it.
They
It's
aren't
so-
paying us.
Yeah, it's just so hard to not own a Nintendo console.
It really is.
Like, they break me every generation.
They have all, they're high quality video games.
God damn it.
Such as Mario Kart.
New Super Mario Brothers.
Man, yeah.
What a delight. And good times will be had by all.
My seg is ruined.
It is. We just started. Did
but-
you? Never mind. I'm not going
Okay.
to ruin you.
In terms, though, of those advancements in PC gaming technology, I would at least like to point out that with like the advent of VR on the horizon, which we're not I'm not going to make any claims as to whether or not VR seems like a thing I think is going to be successful or not, because it's a little bit sketch right now.
Yeah.
Valve is pushing their VR headset, the Vive. I think it's the Vive.
Man, that sounds like a sex toy.
But, yeah, oh yeah,
It does.
absolutely.
There's like 3 of them now. Is the Vive the Sony one?
It's possible.
Valve has a VR thing. We're
Yeah.
referring to it.
Yeah, there's a Valve one, a Sony one, and then there's the Oculus Rift, which I guess is, for all intents and purposes, the Facebook one, because they own them. But either way, Valve's VR, like the current live demo that they're displaying to people at tech shows and stuff, is just Portal.
I was unaware of this.
Yeah,
I didn't know
and
that either.
yeah, it's not like Portal, the game Portal, though. I think that they have ported Portal to a VR compatible environment. I'm not gonna swear to that, but their demo is a test chamber in Portal, and then at the end of it, the walls pull away and shit, and it's clearly they want that to be the coolest fucking thing on the planet. And I feel Portal, if there's a game that's going to make me just fucking
Portal
excited
3.
about VR, is playing Portal in a VR situation seems like the most intense fucking thing.
I've said this to you guys personally at some time or another, I believe, but all that needs to happen for me to drop thousands of dollars on Oculus Rift stuff, and by drop I mean labor intensely for months, the amount of income needed to purchase such things, would be Metroid Prime on Oculus Rift. That is literally the only thing I'd need.
I feel like VR is something that's not going to be successful. I'm actually surprised that you guys show this level of excitement for it.
I don't think what I expressed was excitement for VR. It
For
was excitement for a
Metroid
video
Prime.
game with a helmet on my head.
I feel like it's almost too complicated of a thing to appeal to a mass audience.
Yeah.
Have you used the Rift?
No.
I have used the Rift.
I'm sure it's awesome. I find it hard to imagine a reality where it takes off and is actually makes money.
Why?
I feel like it's probably because you don't need to get hardcore gamers to buy it. They're the ones who are going to want to buy it and giving it attention right now.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to hook a mass audience with it, and that's what you need for it to be successful.
Is it because it's... you don't think you can hook because it's a crazy VR helmet? And people feel
these are the
tech
things
hack
that
wizards,
I
or-
am concerned about. Is one, the thing still has a huge ass cable that has to run from the back of the helmet into a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Your computer has to be insane to run VR.
There's
It does,
that,
yeah.
And then additionally, there's first of all, there are 3 things competing right out of the gate, and for any one of those to be successful, they have to effectively win the VR war.
I feel like to the average person, they're going to see that and think, oh, that's a nerdy Tron bullshit helmet. I feel like it's going to push the average person away from it because it's going to seem too complicated.
Well, I agree with your opinion in the abstract. The specific way that you worded it suggests that everyone who doesn't play video games is some weird backwoods person who's like, I hate Tron. I hate anything that looks like Tron. I don't like
that is
computer-looking things.
I think that you were one correct and two wrong at the same time.
I think the ideal of virtual reality would to appeal to anybody,
Right.
but I feel like the actual like Oculus Rift,
Right.
people are going to see that and be like,
And just because Facebook will put their weight behind it once it actually becomes, more massive does not mean that.
yeah,
it's
I
going
feel
to become
like
successful.
Chad was getting at, it would have to like advance a bit further before it would ever catch on.
Yeah.
Well,
It needs to be simplified, I think.
The way that I see it is just kind of like, I feel like people are going to say, like, that's, like, weird and extreme, and that's going to alienate some
and then
people.
they're just going to like forget about it.
But I think that people think that that is cool, and are probably enticed by the idea of using it, but I don't think that a lot of people are going to be willing to shell out $500,000 for a headset, like, just for an experience.
I mean, don't the majority of technologies that are eventually sort of seem crazy futuristic and then become more widely advanced go through this phase regardless anyway? I mean, like the iPhone was hyper expensive when it came out, even with contract. It had the same sort of crazy mystique to it and seemed like a thing on Star Trek.
I would compare this less to the iPhone and more to the electric car or something, something that
I think that the trick is that it has so much competition out of the gate. Where it's competition is generally good,
Yeah.
but in the situation where it's something that doesn't even have, a proven market, having, splitting the voters, so to speak, across, all three platforms is going to be really difficult for any one of them to sustain,
And just to
in the long
clarify,
run.
the reason why it's a problem is because it's not like they're mutually compatible.
Right.
Yeah, they have different physical hardware, and you have to divide. You have to design independently for each, and it's going to make things more difficult.
Right.
I'm
It seems weird that a PC exclusive hardware thing would fall back on the old console exclusivity marketing issues. Because it's gonna be because I think all of the VR helmets can run VR compatible stuff, but it just doesn't look the same in all of them. You just have to be they're designed for one in particular, and then the other ones don't. But at the same time, it's if you're not playing this Vive enabled game in your Oculus, then it's gonna look like garbage. It's just that's a downside for both Vive and Oculus.
I feel like if it ever catches on, it'll be over 10 years from now.
I think that the price will need to come down, but that eventually happens with everything. It's unclear to me whether or not that they'll eventually become one victor of the war, because it's not
Also, as we brought up, I think the average person does not game on a PC, and these are compatible with PCs and not consoles.
True. It's a larger portion of the
pie.
Yeah, than you'd think, but not a lot of them have the high-end rigs that you need to actually run an Oculus Rift.
Going into this generation, there was actually a lot of the console manufacturers were really unsure about the success of the PS4 and the Xbox One and things. That's why their opening launch titles had such sort of tentative steps. A lot of them were remakes and things, because even the big names in the industry thought that there was a huge chance that consoles were going to die, and the PC and Nintendo were going to be all that remained.
Nintendo keeps chugging along.
Yeah.
Oh, I quoted to you that line from, and I may be wrong about this, but I think it was a Sony executive who said we just wanted to design something that's going to look good sitting next to your Wii U.
And that it does.
Yeah, we're literally looking at a PS4 next to a Wii U right now. It's just everyone just assumes that you're going to have a Nintendo console. That's what I was trying to say.
We love Portal so much. It's so funny that this is how we express love for things, is by slowly beginning to ignore it over time.
Yeah. When we really like a game, it just does not lead to a significant discussion, because we just don't disagree on anything.
And nothing. Everything's so good. Portal is elemental. The mechanic of connected portals, manipulate them, think with portals to go through a space, is something that just so immediately clicks with everyone in the context of any kind of game, not even necessarily a puzzle game, that I don't think you need explained why that's a good, fun, or unique idea.
Right.
We don't need to like justify like, oh hey, we finally made a game where portals can be the main mechanic. If they could have technologically done that in 1985, it would have existed then too.
Right. Pack Portal Man.
That actually exists because there are
Because
portals
you
in
go
Pac-Man.
through the left side and the right side, yeah. But they did. They knew that was a fun mechanic, and so they built it into Pac-Man. We never mentioned the fact that it was designed by a team of college students who built Narbacular Drop. And
What's
then,
Narbacular Drop?
or Narbacular Drop. It was the game that became Portal. It was originally this, you were unaware of this?
I've never heard that word in my life.
I didn't know this either.
Oh, well, there's an achievement in Portal 2 that you can get when you play the co-op called Narbacular Drop. But Narbacular Drop was a game that was designed by these students. It was a student project. I forget what university they were from. And they built it, and then Valve saw it, and then they just said, "How about you guys come work for Valve instead?"
What,
Valve
how
into the black
similar
box.
was it to Portal?
It was basically just the Portal mechanics that they had built in a prototype, and then Valve bought them to come work on Portal, and then they had Andy Wolpert, I believe is the guy's name, write a story for it, and there's another guy, I don't remember his name, and then they kind of built the Portal universe around that mechanic, and then they just had those guys on as programmers. And then Portal 2 actually was another student game called something The Power of Paint that became the gel mechanic in Portal 2. So Portal's actually a almost entirely outside of Valve
I know
franchise.
that I heard this. I'm not going to be sketchy on the details here, but didn't Portal 2 start out way different than what it ended up being?
I believe that to be true.
As in, it was going to be like a prequel,
Mm.
it was going to take place in Aperture, in the 50s or something.
Yeah, that was the original idea for it. I have the ebook that you can buy on Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, it's DigiPen Institute of Technology was the college that these kids came from.
Is that
it's a senior project for a group of students. They released it in 2005. Gabe Newell liked it and then just gave them all jobs.
Oh.
So,
Good
yeah,
for them.
Narbacular Drop.
Dream of many, I'm sure, in game colleges with names like whatever that was.
DigiPen.
Yeah.
DigiPen.
Like G4 advertisements.
Man.
Thanks for listening to NoClip. As always, you can get a hold of us at noclippodcast@gmail.com, on our website, noclippodcast.com, on Twitter at noclippodcast, and on YouTube at just noclip. Next week, and then 1 week after that, because we're going to forever fuck this up.
What are we playing next time?
Next time, which is 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about Star Fox 64, a game that I was shocked to discover everyone fucking liked. So, I mean, here, I was unsure.
Everyone in the
world really likes Star Fox.
He was shocked because it's a terrible game.
Yeah.
And he'll describe why it's terrible in 2 weeks.
I feel like I'm going to have to, because when we like a game, it turns into this.
I feel like Star Fox is old enough. We'll find enough to nitpick about.
Yeah. That's us, the nitpick crew.
Nitpick, no clip.
Nit clip.
None of that works. You're
Nope.
all killing yourselves.
No
Alright,
nit,
see you later.
no nit, no pick. I don't know.
We're coming up on 6 minutes of trying to start the podcast.
I have to pee now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
God damn it!